They discovered an unbelievable prophecy of Jesus that is fulfilling right now. Few knew what truly happened that night. In a dark corner of Jerusalem, where shadows mingled with whispers of hope and despair. It was a night steeped in mystery, shrouded in the kind of tension that could make the air crackle with electricity. The streets, usually alive with voices, lay silent as if the very stones were holding their breath. At the center of it all stood a shadowy figure, a man with fierce eyes and a heart burdened with secrets. They called him Jesus, though many merely said he was a prophet. Yet, that night, he carved a path through the confusion, ready to unveil what had long been hidden. He spoke of prophecies that seemed impossibly grand, the kind that could shake the very foundations of faith. Each word dripped with urgency, echoing like thunder in the stillness. Outside the city walls, the stars looked down, indifferent yet puzzled by the unfolding drama. Was this the moment foretold by ancient texts? The long-awaited arrival of the Messiah? The air smelled of dust and fire, of hope and disbelief. Hearts raced. Pulses quickened, a collective breath held tight in the suspense of what was to come. But not everyone was convinced. Doubt cast long shadows. Who could trust a man who claimed such divine connection? Murmurings sparked, igniting fears that spread like wildfire. Contradictions lingered, as some greeted his arrival with cheers while others gritted their teeth in hesitation. Both groups shared one common thread. The thrum of anticipation reverberated through the streets, an unspoken question tethered to each beat. What miracles would witness, what mysteries would unfold? Surely, answers lay ahead, hidden in the folds of time. As the night deepened, a question lingered, bold and challenging. Could this be the dawn they had all been waiting for? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the hours that followed, the city of Jerusalem remained cloaked in its veil of uncertainty, as if the very walls were pulsing with unanswered questions. Someone had to bear witness to the unfolding events, and the crowd began to gather under the dim glow of oil lamps, their flickering flames mirroring the flickering hope within their hearts. Jesus stood at the forefront, his voice steady yet infused with a passionate urgency that resonated deep within the souls of those who heard him. "And what shall I say to you about the kingdom of God?" he called, his words filtering through the anxious murmurs. "It is like a grain of mustard seed, the smallest of seeds, yet when it grows, it becomes the greatest of shrubs, and the birds of the air make nests in its branches." Some listened closely, pondering the meanings hidden within his parables, while others merely shrugged, dismissing his analogies as fanciful tales. Yet, as the stories washed over the crowd, even those who doubted felt a stirring in their hearts, as though a long-forgotten truth was awakening. Among the gathered, a woman named Miriam stood just outside the circle, her eyes wet with unshed tears. She had heard the rumors whispered in hushed tones, the talk of miracles and proclamations, yet uncertainty gripped her like a vice. She had seen her share of prophets, each claiming to hold the keys to salvation, only to vanish into the mists of disillusionment. Was this man different? Did the fulfillment of prophecy truly rest upon his shoulders? The echoes of her conflict resonated within her, and she longed for clarity. As Jesus continued to teach, the atmosphere shifted. A sense of reverential fear began to permeate the air, spurred by the unfolding revelation of his identity, though still shrouded in layers of doubt. "Blessed are the poor in spirit," Jesus spoke, "for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The words seemed to carve a path through the burdens that weighed heavily on the hearts of many, yet the implication of his blessing unsettled others. Within the crowd, inquiries deepened, and whispers evolved into debates. Some began to question the established order. Others grappled with the notion of a kingdom that contrasted sharply with the laws of earthly governance. The tension mounted as arguments flared, revealing the walls that divide belief and skepticism. Miriam found herself caught in the swell of emotions, feeling an unnameable yearning to step forward and confront the man who spoke such powerful words. What does it mean, she wondered, to be blessed and yet remain so poor? The humility of her own existence bore down on her spirit, raised against the backdrop of Jesus' declaration. And what of the rich? Could they ever truly understand the kingdom he spoke of? As the sun began to peek over the horizon, illuminating the fractured landscape of Jerusalem, a quiet resolve settled within Miriam. Perhaps it was now or never. Perhaps she could find solace in confronting her doubts directly. Yet, as she prepared to step forward, a question weighed heavily on her heart. If he was indeed the fulfillment of the prophecy, could he also unlock the mysteries of her own suffering? The dawn broke, casting a golden light over a city poised on the brink of change. As Miriam stood at a crossroads, the reflections of the crowd swirled around her. Each person struggling with their own questions. Were they ready to embrace the call that beckoned them forward, or would they linger comfortably in the shadows of doubt? The foundations of both faith and disbelief trembled, awaiting an answer that would either unite or divide. As the first rays of sunlight illuminated the dusty streets of Jerusalem, tensions crackled like the dry branches underfoot. The whispers of doubt and hope intertwined like strands of a fragile tapestry, woven from the hearts of the city's inhabitants. Jesus stood at the center of it all, a living beacon, drawing souls towards him with an invisible force. Miriam stepped closer, feeling the heat of the day seeping into her skin. The crowd swelled with a mixture of fervent believers and ardent skeptics, each person wrestling with the implications of Jesus' words. She could hear the distant clang of a hammer against metal, a reminder that the world continued its relentless march, even as a divine question lingered in the air. Who was this man? "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest," Jesus proclaimed, his voice rich and soothing, offering balm to the ache of life. The invitation was simple yet profound, stirring a deep longing within Miriam's heart. She had carried her burdens for so long. The thought of laying them at his feet felt like a tempting dream. But doubts gnawed at her, as persistent as the gnats that buzzed in the midday sun. Did she dare to hope it could truly be that simple? Around her, people began to murmur, some nodding in agreement, a few shaking their heads in rejection. A young man, clearly agitated, shouted, "What of our laws, Rabbi? Are we to abandon the tenets that bind us as a people?" His voice sliced through the gathering, igniting a spark of anger within others. Miriam could see the faces of those who clung to tradition, their resolve as firm as the scrolls they cherished. "Not one of these stones will I cast aside," Jesus replied, a gentle firmness in his tone. The kingdom is a fulfillment, not a rejection of what has come before. It is the heart of the law that matters, not merely the surface that I in that moment. Miriam's heart danced with hope and confusion. Could the essence of all she had known be reaching towards something more profound? Jesus' declaration offered not only the promise of a kingdom, but also a challenge to the very core of her understanding. Her heart beat faster, and she felt a pull to stand against the tide of expectation. The woman's spirit soared with an urge to speak, yet she hesitated. Who was she to question him? Would her voice matter among the thunderous chorus of doubt and belief? In the recesses of her mind, a gentle nudge urged her on. What could be the harm in asking? What if the answer she sought lay in her willingness to voice her fears? As her courage gathered, the sun ascended higher in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched like memories across the cobbled stones. "Master," she finally called out, her voice breaking through the din. It was a call that resonated both within her and the crowd. Jesus turned his gaze toward her, and in that moment, time seemed to halt. His eyes held the wisdom of ages, yet flickered with the warmth of compassion. "What is it you seek, daughter?" Her heart raced, battling the weight of all who surrounded her. "If you bring rest to the weary and bless the poor in spirit, then tell me, what becomes of the lost and the forgotten? Where do they find their place in this kingdom?" A hush fell over the crowd, an eager anticipation that crackled in the air. Miriam felt exposed, her vulnerability laid bare. Would her inquiry invite scorn or validation? Jesus' expression softened. "The lost are ever within the embrace of grace," he said. "They are the ones who awaken the heart of the Father." When they seek, they shall find. When they ask, it is given. For I tell you, the kingdom grows not from the powerful, but from those who dare to step forward in their brokenness. Miriam could feel the breath of multitude around her, their own burdens whispering for recognition. The words sank deep into her spirit, awash with revelation, yet unanswered questions surged within her. Could grace truly extend to all those who were forgotten, whose spirits lay in the shadow of despair? As Jesus continued speaking, contrasting, worlds collided within her. Hope and disillusionment danced closely, and uncertainty loomed larger than before. The promise of a kingdom sounded sweet, yet the path remained shrouded. What would it mean to accept this kingdom when the very essence of her existence was intertwined with struggle and loss? And as she pondered, an uneasy thought took root. Was she bold enough to step forward and claim this hope for herself, or would she linger in the obscurity of indecision? As the sun soared higher, illuminating the dusty streets of Jerusalem, Miriam's heart beat in tumultuous rhythm with the gathering crowd. The whispers of doubt and fervor echoed in her ears, yet the conviction in her heart nudged her toward the light of understanding. Who am I to question his wisdom? She thought, her hands trembling slightly at her sides. Yet the gentle pull inside her grew insistent, urging her to seek clarity amidst the chaos. Rabbi, she called again, voice steadier now. Can you tell us how we are to live in this kingdom? What breathes life into these words you share? A ripple of curiosity swept through the assembly. Jesus' gaze remained locked onto her, the depths of his eyes conveying visible recognition of her earnest pursuit. To live in the kingdom, he began, is to embody unwavering love, to reach out to the neighbor, to serve without favor. It is the way of the heart. Miriam nodded, feeling the significance of those words resonate within her soul. They painted a picture of a community bound by understanding and compassion, yet they also cast a shadow on her lingering uncertainties. But, she pressed on, how do we find the strength to love those who betray us? How do we extend grace to the ungrateful? An unexpected hush followed her query, as if the very air held its breath. The crowd stood knee-deep in anticipation, for her question lay close to the heart of their struggles. Jesus smiled softly, a glimmer of understanding illuminating his face. It is in our weakness that we discover the essence of grace. Through our trials, we grow rooted in forgiveness. We must remember, the path of the kingdom is laden with the art of surrendering our woundedness to one another. The wave of understanding crashed over Miriam, and with it came a sense of clarity she had long sought. Her burdens felt lighter in that moment, yet a new heaviness settled in its place. Grace demanded her to act. The challenge loomed large, asking her not just to receive but also to give. Yet, further questions arose, swirling like autumn leaves caught in a tempest. And what of those who do not know this love, the ones consumed by bitterness and despair? Some faces turned toward her, captivated and questioning in their gazes, while others frowned, wary of the instability her words stirred. The kingdom does not shy away from the lost. Jesus responded steadily, fingers delicately tracing the air as he spoke. For every soul must have its place within it. It is through love that the lost may be drawn back home. As you embody grace, you shine a light upon the path they may stumble toward. Miriam glanced at the faces surrounding her. In the depths of their eyes, she recognized her own struggle, a fierce battle against isolation, the quest for acceptance and understanding. There were those who had felt the sting of betrayal, and others who bore the burden of doubt. Then I must act, mustn't I? She murmured, grappling with the implications of his guidance. Could she transform the hesitance simmering within her into an act of love that would ripple outward? But where do I begin? The question felt like a stepping stone into an unknown expanse. You begin with the smallest act, a whisper of kindness, a gesture of service. The seeds sown in humility bear the most profound fruit, Jesus advised, his voice like gentle rain on parched earth. Do not underestimate the power of small beginnings. The challenge entwined with a promise, awakening a spirit of resolve within her. Yet, the road ahead remained cloaked in mystery. As the sun bore down and shadows shifted, Miriam sensed an urgency to embrace a path destined for transformation, not just in herself, but in her community. What seeds could she plant to nurture the hearts around her? Would her small acts of love bridge the chasm of fear and doubt? And as she stood amidst the crowd, the hope of fulfillment sparked within her, leaving her with a stirring thought. Could grace truly weave its way through the fabric of her heart to alter the very course of a life steeped in struggle? Miriam took a step back as the fervor of Jesus' words settled like a warm blanket over the crowd, absorbing the anchoring truth in the midst of her uncertainty. She still felt the weight of her question tugging at her spirit, but now a flicker of motivation sparked brighter in her heart. She looked around at those present. Some faces were filled with hope, while others reflected despair or hesitation. Each one carried a story, and a flicker of inspiration ignited in her mind. Suddenly, a commotion erupted to her right. A woman, frail and weary, emerged from the throng, her cloaked figure shaking with despair. "Teacher," she cried, voice trembling, "I am tormented by my past, haunted by sins that cling to me like shadows. Can the grace you speak of reach a heart so broken?" The crowd held its breath, drawn into the palpable emotion of the moment. Miriam's heart ached for the woman. She recognized the shadows from her own life. Jesus' eyes, filled with compassion, turned toward the woman as he spoke, each word imbued with gentle truth. "Your past does not define you. It is merely a chapter in the grand story of your life. Only love has the power to rewrite your narrative, and my grace is ever-reaching, extending beyond every boundary we set." The woman fell to her knees, tears spilling onto the dust beneath her. "But how?" she implored, raw vulnerability shining in her eyes. "How do I accept this grace? How do I turn from despair to joy?" Slowly, Jesus knelt beside her, his touch reassuring. A hush wrapped around them like a sacred silence. Acceptance is the first step. Remember, grace is a gift, not a performance. It is accepting that you are seen in your entirety, flaws, wounds, and all, and being held in love despite them. Start by forgiving yourself, for only then can you begin to embody the grace you seek. Miriam felt her heart beat faster, each word resonating deeper in her soul. "Forgiveness," she murmured, turning the word over in her mind like a precious gem. It stirred within her the recognition of her own hesitations to forgive, to let go of the burdens she had clung to tightly. Jesus' teaching was demanding, asking her not just to extend love in her small gestures, but to embrace the profound act of forgiveness both towards others and herself. The woman wept softly, a small flicker of understanding ignited in the crowd. Encouraged by Jesus' words, murmurs of agreement spilled forth, people sharing their own burdens and seeking healing. Miriam sensed an awakening, the soft stirring of communal love where judgment had once reigned. "But what if I am unable to forgive?" Another voice questioned from the back, a man stepping onto the dusty road. "What if my heart remains closed, shielded against the very grace that sets me free?" Jesus turned, eyes shining with boundless love. "True, it may feel unbearable at times, but know this: the seed of grace has already been planted within you. Nurture it, feed it with acts of kindness, understanding, and the willingness to be vulnerable. It will flourish, even in the most hardened of hearts. Every step towards love brings you closer to the kingdom you seek." The man nodded slowly, as if grappling with the unearthing of hope within uncertainty. And in that moment, something deep shifted inside Miriam. She realized that the challenge Jesus presented extended beyond herself. It was an invitation to a vibrant, shared experience of grace. Their healing stories intertwined, generating strength and resilience that could ripple through their community. Reflecting on the impassioned exchange, Miriam finally understood that grace did not dwell in mere words, but in the act of collectively confronting injuries, lifting one another as they stumbled along. But amidst this unveiling, the gnawing question remained: how could they sustain this newfound spirit of grace against the prevailing tides of cynicism and betrayal? Would they succeed in manifesting the kingdom in their midst, or would the shadows creep back, dimming the light that had begun to break through? With the crowd still buzzing from the weight of their revelations, Miriam felt a surge of purpose pulsing through her veins. She turned to Jesus, whose presence radiated peace, and found herself drawn closer, eager to understand more of the mystery unfurling before them. "Teacher," she ventured, her voice steady despite the ripples of uncertainty within her. How do we carry this grace into the world as we return to our daily lives? Will our struggles simply dissolve before the obstinacy that surrounds us? Jesus raised his hand, and the murmurs quieted once more as he chose his words carefully. The journey of grace is not devoid of challenges. In fact, it is in those very struggles that the truth of grace is revealed. Each time you encounter a moment of doubt, fear, or anger, recognize it as an opportunity to reach deeper into love. The unchanging power of grace lies in the willingness to confront adversity with unrelenting hope that a breeze wafted through, sweeping past Miriam like an unseen embrace, causing her to close her eyes and reflect. She envisioned the faces of her friends, her family. None were perfect. Each faced their own burdens. The thought ignited a burning curiosity within her. What stories were hidden within them? Did they, too, wrestle with the shadows, hoping to emerge into the light while grappling with forgiveness? Before she could form her thoughts into a coherent question, another voice spoke from the back, an elderly man, weathered but wise. How can we share grace when so many around us do not understand its depth? How can we remain steadfast when faced with those who choose anger over love, division over unity? Jesus' gaze softened as he regarded the man. Start with humility and patience. Grace, like a seed, must be planted with care, and not every heart is ready to receive it. Cultivate the ground with acts of kindness, patience, and understanding. Trust that even a small gesture can cause the most stubborn hearts to soften over time. Miriam felt the weight of the man's question linger in the air, stirring her own fears of failure. She thought of the state of her own heart. And what of those who resist? What if our attempts at grace are met with scorn or misunderstanding? Jesus took a moment to observe the faces in the crowd, the eyes still shining with hope, the hearts yearning for connection. Even in rejection, love is never wasted. Your role is to embody grace as a way of being, opening a door for others, even if they choose not to enter. It is the act of love that bears witness to its power, sparking curiosity in those who watch. Miriam sensed a quiet strength in his words. She resolved then to delve deeper, not just for herself, but for those surrounding her. She realized the heart's journey toward embracing grace could become a gathering of stories, each tale revealing a facet of love, loss, redemption, and the continuous unfolding of hope that in that moment. She spotted the woman from before, still kneeling in quiet contemplation, and felt compelled to approach her. Sister, what do you feel now? How does grace resonate in your heart, even in this shared journey of learning? The woman looked up, eyes shimmering with the remnants of tears, but now radiating a newfound light. I see hope where once there was only despair. I feel burdens lifting with each choice to forgive. Perhaps the finest thread of grace is the willingness to weave our stories together. Could it be that in sharing our wounds, we find strength to heal them? Miriam nodded slowly, captivated by the connection blossoming in their exchange. As she glanced around, the crowd, once filled with doubts, now seemed illuminated by a collective understanding. Each individual was beginning to grasp that grace did not have to be isolated within their hearts, but could be nurtured into a broader tapestry through mutual support. Yet, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows on the dusty road, a question lingered in the air. Was there enough courage among them to persist in pursuing this grace, to share it without restraint in the face of doubt and rejection? Would they nurture the seed of love, or would fear speak louder, preventing the unfolding of a brighter future? As the shadows lengthened and the air thickened with the scent of dusk, Miriam felt an undeniable shift in the atmosphere around her. The conversations that had once flowed with uncertainty now surged with the vigor of shared hope. Yet, amidst the rising tide of connection, a whisper of doubt still coiled within her heart. Teacher, she spoke again, buoyed by inspiration yet burdened by her thoughts. If grace is to be the seed we nurture, how do we recognize when it has taken root within us? How can we be assured that our struggles do not overshadow the triumphs of this journey? Jesus regarded her with kindness, a gentle fire kindling in his eyes. The signs of grace are not always evident in grand gestures. Often, They flicker to life in the subtle shifts of the heart, the moments when anger yields to understanding, when bitterness transforms into compassion, and when judgment makes way for acceptance. It is in these quiet victories that the essence of grace truly flourishes. As he spoke, a wind rustled through the gathered crowd, carrying with it an anticipation that felt almost electric. Miriam scanned her surroundings, witnessing the familiarity of faces illuminated in the fading light. Their expressions carried a mixture of doubt and yearning, and she realized they were collectively searching for the way forward amid the struggles they faced. The young man, his brow creased with concern, stepped forward. But what of the prophecies spoken of old? How do we know that what we experience today is indeed part of the grand narrative that guides us? How can we trust that this grace extends beyond our own lives, into the very fabric of prophecy itself? Jesus smiled knowingly, the sun painting the horizon with hues of gold and crimson. Prophecy is not merely words etched in ancient scrolls. It is alive, breathing with the echoes of our choices. Each act of grace, every choice of love, adds to the tapestry of fulfillment. The prophecy is stirred into life by the collective faith of those willing to reach out, to risk, and to share their stories in the face of uncertainty. Intrigued yet grappling with the enormity of his words, Miriam pondered how the currents of prophecy flowed through their lives. Could the echoes of the ancients still resonate in their actions today? Did the lives they touched with kindness create ripples, altering the course of destiny itself? Her breaths came slow, as she considered the shared journey of the crowd. Is it possible, then, that our struggles are part of this prophecy? Each heartache, each failure weaving them into a deeper understanding of grace, a fuller picture of love. Yes, Jesus affirmed with warmth, every trial faced, every doubt acknowledged, becomes a brushstroke in the mural of life I paint with each of you. Your stories are not lost. They are as vital as any prophecy foretold. Your willingness to embrace the uncertainty and forge ahead with love shapes the course of all that is yet to come. Miriam's heart swelled at the idea that her life, with its missteps and moments of doubt, mattered in this vast canvas of existence. Just then, the woman from earlier arose, her hands clasped as if cradling a fragile gift. May we dare to believe our shared experiences, each tale of grace, carries the weight of an unfolding promise. A palpable silence followed her words, as everyone mulled over the significance of the woman's question. Was the very act of sharing their lives with one another in homage to those prophecies that spoke of hope, healing, and redemption? Could they collectively write the next chapter of their story, forever colored by grace? As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, a soft resolve filled the gathering. Yet, even with buoyant hearts, the unsteady ground of uncertainty still awaited them. How could they forge ahead, trusting in the power of grace to run deeper than their struggles, and in the interconnected narrative of their lives, awaken a sense of holy prophecy that transcended their individual journeys? In the twilight, shadows danced playfully, encouraging the gathering to stay in this moment of clarity, yet doubts still whispered in the corners of each heart. When faced with the realities of life's trials, would they be able to hold on to the belief that they were more than mere participants in a prophecy but active shapers of its unfolding? As the stars began to twinkle in the deepening night, a sense of reverence settled over the assembly. The weight of unspoken thoughts hung in the air like a fragile thread, binding them together in a quest that was at once personal and profound. Miriam looked around, feeling the pulse of collective yearning. Each heart present was tethered not only by struggles, but also by the flicker of hope ignited by Jesus' words. Yet amid that hope, a deeper question flickered like a candle fighting against a gust of wind. What was it to be a shaper of prophecy? What kind of actions bore the weight of the divine promise? The crowd fell into contemplative silence, and it was then that an elder, his silver hair catching the faint light, stepped forward. His voice, though gentle, resonated with the authority of experience. "Teacher," he began, his eyes glimmering with memories, "these echoes of our lives, they are certainly significant. Yet, how do we navigate this path laden with uncertainty? How do we ensure that our actions align with the grace you speak of?" Jesus regarded the elder with admiration. "Ah, the journey of faith often feels like wandering through an uncharted forest, does it not? Each choice you stand before can seem monumental. But remember, the path is illuminated not by the certainty of outcomes, but by the sincerity of intention and the purity of love. It is through our willingness to act in faith, even when shadows loom large, that we leave footprints of grace upon the earth. Miriam was drawn to Jesus' assurance, but she felt a new complexity emerging in her heart. Does that mean we are called to embrace even the smallest acts? To honor the grace within our lives by choosing kindness in the midst of pain? Exactly, Jesus affirmed, a smile gracing his lips. An act of kindness may seem inconsequential, yet it can resonate through the ages. A comforting word, a hand extended in compassion, these gestures weave into the very fabric of prophecy, nurturing life where despair threatens to take root. A young woman, emboldened by these insights, rose to speak. But what if our actions seem eclipsed by the enormity of the world's suffering? What if we falter in our grace? Do those missteps taint our efforts? Or do they become part of the journey we share? The beauty of grace, Jesus replied, his voice calm and steady, is that it allows room for your humanity. Each stumble, each question, is woven into the tapestry of your growth. The prophecy does not demand perfection. It seeks authenticity. It craves the raw power of a heart willing to embrace both triumph and defeat. In the balance of your struggles lies the weight of shared humanity. Miriam felt a flicker of understanding illuminate her heart. It was not the successes that held the promise, but the faith to rise after falling. The tapestry of their shared stories by weaving together struggles and grace crafted not just their destiny, but also bore witness to a divine journey larger than themselves. As the night deepened, the low hum of realization settled once more. Together, they had uncovered a facet of prophecy that was as humble as it was profound. Still, with every revelation, uncertainty ebbed and flowed like the tide. While they spoke of weaving and shaping prophecy, the reality of their struggles weighed on them like stones held tight in their hands. Miriam's gaze swept over the crowd's faces, now illuminated by hope mingled with lingering doubt. A question rose within her like the moonlight breaking through clouds. Were they truly prepared to embrace not only the call to act, but also the necessity of uncertainty along the way? In their quest for grace, would they learn to accept the imperfections of their journey as equally sacred to the stories they sought to tell? As the gathering settled into a contemplative quiet, a sudden breeze whispered through the trees, rustling leaves that flickered like shadows against the stars. It was in the midst of that tranquil moment, where divine connection felt palpable, that a weary traveler approached. His clothes were dusty from the road, and his expression betrayed the weight of unrelenting pursuit. The crowd turned, curiosity lacing their anticipation. "Master," the traveler called out, his voice strained with urgency. "I sought you across the hills and valleys, driven by tales of healing and hope. Yet I am not here merely for myself. My son lies paralyzed, trapped within a body that betrays him, and I fear darkness may consume him whole." Jesus regarded the traveler, his heart aching at the sight of such a father's love. "Your faith has brought you to me. What do you believe can happen?" "I believe," the man replied, humility intertwining with desperation, yet doubt lingers. "What if I am not worthy enough for such an act of mercy? What if my son is beyond the reach of healing?" "Ah," Jesus said softly, "it is faith, not worthiness, that invites the divine into the human experience. Can you not see, dear one, that your very journey through fear and hope has already begun to shape the outline of a prophecy yet to unfold?" Before the traveler could comprehend, Jesus beckoned him closer. "Tell me, what is it that you wish to see? What does healing look like to you?" The father's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "To see my son smile again, to hear him laugh, to see him run and play with the other children." Jesus nodded slowly, drawing his gaze to the constellations visible above. "Your vision of healing is not solely physical. It encompasses hope, restoration, and the rekindling of the soul." He turned back, intensity radiating from him. "Go, and let your heart be set free of the chains of doubt. Your son's story may indeed be intertwined with yours, woven through threads of faith." As the man processed Jesus' words, Miriam felt a spark ignite within her. She recalled the struggles of her own journey once burdened with doubt, drawn to the light of testimony from others who had dared to believe against impossible odds. A transformation often blossomed from desperation, painting vibrancy onto otherwise dull lives. Can this prophecy, she pondered aloud, extend beyond mere actions? Might it exist in the space between our faith and our doubts, like a bridge that invites the miraculous to enter? Jesus turned to her, the corners of his mouth lifting into a knowing smile. Indeed, it lives there. It thrives on the edges of uncertainty, seeking those bold enough to walk there. It is not always a single grand act. Sometimes it is the persistence of hope, the whispers of belief in the silence of despair, that shaped the miraculous. As darkness continued to blanket the earth, the assembly felt a collective breath of courage swell within them. The unfolding story of the man and his son intertwined with their own struggles, entwining their souls deeper into the message of faith and prophecy. Yet, the deeper implications began to settle. If prophecy bore not only the weight of certainty, but also the beauty of uncertainty, then where did that leave them as individuals steeped in both longing and fear? In that moment, Miriam was filled with a new question that lingered like the night stars above. If prophecy is about walking faithfully through the realms of doubt, how might they courageously navigate their own uncertain paths and embrace the unknown as a sacred part of their journey? Would they dare to let their fears blend with hopes to create something beautifully prophetic? As the night enveloped the city, casting a veil of stars across the skies above Jerusalem, the yearning for transformation pulsed within the crowd like an unquenchable fire. Miriam felt the weight of the atmosphere around her, electrified by the dialogues drifting through the gathering, each voice interwoven with threads of faith and apprehension, hope and skepticism. A tapestry of shared experiences unfolded, revealing the multitudes of hearts eager for understanding. The weary traveler stood at the forefront, the flicker of hope in his eyes contrasting with the shadows of doubt that loomed behind him. A palpable silence wrapped around him as he processed Jesus' words, the gentle truth nestling within his heart, ready to descend like a seed planted in fertile soil. Miriam stepped forward, feeling compelled to share in the unfolding narrative woven with love and desire for healing. "Rabbi," she began, her voice filled with determination, "do our journeys not exemplify a path marked by our struggles? Must we not embrace our fears alongside our hopes to affirm the prophecies within us?" Jesus regarded her with a depth of understanding that radiated warmth, a silent acknowledgement of the courage it took to voice such profound realizations. Indeed, every heart that seeks is worthy of grace. Each moment of doubt you experience is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. They awaken a yearning for growth, and until they are faced, the profound messages of grace may remain unspoken. Miriam closed her eyes, embracing the revelation that flickered like illumination within her soul. The journey through uncertainty was not merely an exercise in endurance. It was laden with purpose and potential. Each struggle nurtured her faith, and each trial prepared her to decipher the language of grace echoing through their stories. Just then, the traveler spoke again. "But what if I falter? What if my faith wavers amidst the tempest?" His voice trembled, weighed down by the enormity of his fears. "Fear not," Jesus replied, stepping closer, his presence enveloping the gathering in a cocoon of peace. "Your doubts only mark a chapter in the longer story of your life. Perfections and imperfections alike contribute to the fullness of grace. Seek not a path devoid of trials. Embrace the struggle, for it is there that resilience and strength are forged." "Could it be?" murmured Miriam, sensing a transformative energy that ignited around her, "that the true essence of grace thrives in the tension between our deepest fears and greatest hopes?" The crowd stirred at her words, recognizing the truth found in that delicate balance. Together, they stood at the crossroads of uncertainty and promise, illuminated by a vision of collective healing that transcended individual limitations. "Your lives are not meant to unfold as isolated threads," Jesus said, his voice a gentle melody in the cool air. "Instead, embrace the symphony of each person's journey. As one hand reaches for another, each story intertwines within the grand narrative of love that I invite you to join." In that moment of clarity, a deep revelation unfurled within Miriam. The kingdom of God was not a distant promise nor a mere concept. It was an ever-present reality, accessible to all who dared to gather in faith, extending grace in small gestures of love and kindness that planted seeds of understanding in a fractured world. The dread of failing transformed into a desire to act, an eager readiness to take the next step. The doubts that had once woven through her heart began to dissipate, replaced by the knowledge that even the smallest acts of love reverberated through the fabric of time. The weary traveler, heartened by the embers of hope glowing in the eyes of those surrounding him, lifted his chin. If I extend my faith into action, believing in the possibility of healing, can it truly change the story of my son? That is the essence of prophecy, Jesus affirmed, the edges of his lips curving into a gentle smile. Your belief is the fire that feeds the ink with which the story will be written. Dare to step forward, to claim the grace that dwells within, for it shall spark the light in your son's life, beyond the limits of despair. With newfound courage weaving through their hearts, the assembly felt a surge of determination, an awakening to the transformative power that hope could yield. It was not merely about individual healings. It was about nurturing a spirit of love that spread like wildfire, an electrifying dance of grace capable of illuminating hearts once consumed by shadows. As murmurs of agreement echoed throughout the crowd, Miriam sensed a profound shift within herself. No longer bound by hesitation, she grasped that collectively, they could evoke change, inspiring one another to plant seeds of love. The prophecy of healing beckoned them to embrace the connection that flourished amid glimpses of despair. Her son, each lost soul yearning for grace, all could find their places within this woven tapestry of shared vulnerability. With renewed resolve rippling through the air, Miriam felt compelled to act. She stepped towards the traveler once more, looking deeply into his eyes. Together, let us extend this grace beyond ourselves. Let us embrace the possibility of creating a community that exemplifies love and healing, where each act is a testimony to the miracle that can emerge when we dare to believe that. As those words left her lips, the energy within the gathering shifted profoundly. A wave of agreement surged through the crowd as people exchanged glances filled with understanding. They began to reach out, to connect. Hands found one another, hearts united in purpose. Jesus observed them with a sense of love so fierce it seemed to envelop the night. Faith, when coupled with love, is a force capable of quelling the storms within and around you. When you walk together, sharing burdens and nurturing hope, that is the essence of the kingdom you seek. The air thickened with the presence of what was unfolding, as if heaven itself was leaning down to witness a pivotal moment in humanity's journey toward grace. And with each heartbeat, Miriam knew they were engaged in something greater than themselves, something holy. In the fading twilight, with hands intertwined, they stood united against fear, lifted by the promise of love and the transformative power of grace. Each person, tethered to the other, became a part of the miracle, a living prophecy of hope that would echo through time, transcending the trials of mortality. As the final rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, darkness embraced the land. Yet the hearts of those gathered burned brighter. They had unlocked the truth. Prophecy did not merely lie in the pages of ancient scrolls, but in the very lives they chose to live. And with that realization, an unwavering light glimmered in Miriam's heart, the profound understanding that they were not only witnesses to prophecies fulfilled, but active participants weaving a narrative meant to outshine even the greatest darkness, leaving bold footprints of love for generations to follow. The true essence of their journey was not just finding fulfillment, but in sharing a legacy rooted deeply in love that would forever light the path for all who would come after.